Welcome to another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast. Our mission is to bring you discussions on a wide array of topics in the coaching world to grow players on and off the court. You can connect with us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and also reach us directly through email at basketballteacherpodcast@gmail.com. Now, here's your host, Coach Mike Hernandez.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining us here for another episode. As always, wherever you guys are listening from, whatever platform you guys are listening to us on, thank you guys so much for the support here as we round the corner here on year 4. I really appreciate everything that you guys have continued to send my way, and those who are longtime listeners sending me stuff, those who have just sent me emails or tweets or messages for the first time. I read them all. I appreciate them all, and keep them coming. Really excited to talk a little bit of the mental aspect. I know a lot of coaches listening are dealing with players who may be hitting the wall, or players who are frustrated or not growing, or hitting that adverse situation, and coaches want to make sure that they have those tools in their tool belt to make sure they can help their players get over the hump, overcome that adversity, and make sure that they don't get stuck wherever it is that they're finding that stress, or wherever it is that they're finding that difficulty. So that's what we're going to get into today. We're gonna talk about the concept of helping to build players up so they can overcome adversity, climb that wall when they hit that wall, and just keep powering through and keep growing. So if that's something that interests you, I'm really excited to have my guest on to talk about it, and we're going to get right into it. My guest today just took a new position, which I'll mention about. He's the head women's coach at Community Christian College. Really happy to be joined by Coach Evan Fosha today. Coach, appreciate you being able to come on here. How are things going with you?
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me, Mike. Everything is going pretty well, man. Just like you said, taking in a new position, getting into my new role, and making sure that these young ladies have every opportunity in front of them to get through not just adverse situations, but diverse situations and different opportunities to have them, express their love for the game, man.
Awesome, Coach. Congratulations on that. And let's take it to the beginning, Coach. Where is basketball taking you? Where is did this coaching journey taking you, and what led you to Community Christian?
Okay, man. Well, I am actually a very younger coach, 27, turning 28 this year, but I'm going into my 10th season here in the fall. I've been coaching right out of high school. I played a little bit of college basketball down at Pfeiffer University in North Carolina. I had a really great mentor down in that area. COVID kind of pushed me back to the Detroit area, which is where I grew up. I was able to start a program here for a K through 8 school as the athletic director. Coached a little bit of semi-pro ball, and from there I just had the opportunity to step into the college realm, man. It's been pretty awesome so far. It's very different. I know we're going to be talking about adversity today, so
Mhm.
I actually was given the opportunity to take on a team that pretty much shut down for the past year or two. Only have 3 returners right now, but doing what I can to, fight through that adversity on my own as a coach and not just a player as well. So it's a
Hey,
great opportunity, man.
well, congratulations on it, Coach.
Thank
That
you.
sounds great and exciting, and like I said, a lot that you're going to be rebuilding here. But as I kind of mentioned to you, and hopefully it's a great opportunity for you to kind of build it in your image, and really make sure, as you mentioned, that those players have all the tools they need, not just on the court, but also off the court to handle any adverse situations. So let's kind of transition into that idea of building kind of what we call life skills. And I know that's something that you're passionate about. You making sure that players have built up their life skills through the game of basketball. So talk us through how you prepare players for life in those life situations, and teach those life skills through the game of basketball.
Well, I feel like as a player, as a coach, anybody kind of in that basketball realm, we all hear that saying of, that life is like a roller coaster. Basketball is like a roller coaster. It has its ups and downs. But for me, I try to be a little unorthodox. I try to give my girls and all of my players something that they can actually hear, and it might be a little different, but it can still stick with them. So I usually actually compare it to Christmas. And I'm like, look, you can't be like a kid on Christmas Day and you want everything wrapped up for you. You have to start to now become the adult. You have to say, you know what? If I want to go get it, if I want to be able to provide Christmas presents for my kids, I need to go work. I need to be the one that stays up late. I need to wrap it, put it under the tree. I need to do what's going to be best for me. And at that point, talking a lot of different life things with them, I throw real life scenarios at them. You know, you got to be real transparent with your players as far as what's going on. You can't try to be something fake or try to not give them your life stories, your ups and downs, and then expect them to face them on their own. You know, so I just try to be as transparent as I can with my players and make sure they understand, like, hey, it's Christmas time, but you're not getting a gift. You're the one doing the rapping. Like, I can't rap it for you. I can't, you know, be your Santa Claus or whatever else it may be. So you got to come out and you got to be your own Santa Claus. You got to be the one that's taking care of your family and holding it down.
I like that. I've not heard that analogy before, Coach, but I really like it here. So I'm already learning stuff. I'm already learning stuff for you. That's awesome.
Hey man,
Uh,
write it down and steal it
I
from my.
it's written. Hey, I'm a coach. I have to. I steal everything. I take everything from everyone else. I have a few original ideas, but not many. I take it from. That's what we're supposed to do, right? Take from the best and take all the good ideas that others share with you. So.
Definitely do not need to reinvent the wheel.
All right, Coach. So I want to actually kind of talk about situation that you find yourself in now, and you kind of mentioned about how the program itself that you are taking over is kind of been through adversity and kind of been through some difficulties, and I kind of want to talk about this journey and this process that you're going through right now of taking over this program and starting to try and build this program up to where you need it to be. So as you took the job at Community Christian, how did you or what have you kind of done to start to kind of build this up and kind of get them out of the funk and the adversity that they've been in these past couple of years?
That part's been pretty hard, man.
I imagine, yeah.
I was given pretty much a roster of about 5 girls that I could reach out to that were possibilities. I had one that was all the way locked in and she still just wanted to play. I had a couple other girls who they just kind of mentally have checked out. But the one of the main things that you have said is the word program. And that is
Hmm.
what I kind of reiterate to my girls. I'm like, you don't want to be a part of a team. Like, you don't want to come in and just say, hey, I was on this team this year and we did okay, or we whatever, blase, blase. I said, you would like to be a part of a program. You want to
Hmm.
be able to look back in a couple years and say, you know what? I helped build that. You know, I stuck it out, I stuck around. So for my 3 or 4 returners that I have now, that's the main thing that I kind of preach to them. Like, hey, we're setting a tone for a program. We're not that team that you were a year ago, 2 years ago that had to forfeit due to injuries and ineligibility and different things like that. Like, we're gonna come in and we're gonna do exactly what we need to do. Whether, you know, we go 500, we go over 500, under 500, we're going to come in and say, you know what, we completed a season. We came in and we did exactly what we said that we were going to set out to do. Now, with my incoming freshman, which is a much harder situation, um, it puts me in a position where I have to pretty much ask them, what do they want to do? You know, what do
Hmm.
you really want out of basketball? Because yes, it's about continuing your education at the college level, but at the same time, are you going to go somewhere and sit on somebody's bench, or would you like to come in and have the green light right away? Because unfortunately, I don't have a bunch of returners, you know, so that's how I can kind of preach
Right.
that with them. And as well with the whole idea of a program, you're coming into something where you can give me a year, you can be 2 years, and when you can walk away from this, you can say, I'm someone who built that foundation. I am a building block to this program. I am someone who, you know, when you look back at it, am an original. You know, I'm a creator of what's truly going on. So it's like you said, it's not just adverse for the players, but it's very adverse for me as the coach and stepping into that new role. Definitely a lot of big shoes to fill with stepping in and a lot of expectations, but I feel as if I've been doing a pretty good job so far. You know, I try to give myself a pat on the back and give myself some grace because it's
Yeah.
not easy, you know, recruiting girls when, again, for the past 2 years, this program has kind of been going downhill. So to go and recruit local high school girls and say, hey, come play for a school where you got online classes, and they've already been freaked out with online classes with COVID.
Mm.
You know, you're coming in and saying, hey, we have our own gym, kind of, you know, we're practicing at local high school, and I'm also an educator. So I allow my
Yeah.
kids to come in where I teach. So It works out, but at the same time, it's like I'm a car salesman right now. So it's been a great journey. It's adversity that I love because I feel like it shapes who I am as a person. But it is definitely something right now where I'm getting my speaking points together. I'm getting my, hey,
Hmm.
what do you really want out of basketball? How can I help you? How can I make your family comfortable? Because that's the next aspect of it all is mom, dad, I have to stay at home for, a couple more years, or, I have to get a small apartment down in the Detroit area or whatever it may be. So just really trying to make sure that everybody's comfortable, everybody's coming in, again, like you said, to understand we're not a team. We're not thinking just this season. We're thinking long term as a program.
And a lot of that, from how you kind of responded to that question, I think is comes down to like just the way that you frame the adversity that the program's been through. And there's kind of a couple ways that you could frame it. And I think the positive one, and that's the one that you're doing, is saying like, hey, you get the opportunity to be part of something special and be that foundational piece, or that building block that took us to out of this adversity and built us to where it is that we're going for the future. And I think that it's hard sometimes, I'm sure, as coaches, we think about all the things that maybe we don't have, or we think about, the way things were in the past. But, the opportunity that you get as a coach, coming into a program with adversity, is that you can kind of sell it to the players that you as a coach and the players that are coming in, like you're all on this journey together to kind of build this program to the level that it needs to be. And you can kind of look back and say like, man, we were that first group together that kind of made that happen. And it definitely sounds like that's kind of the message that you're getting across, is especially on the recruiting trail.
Well, it's been awesome because I have one standout returner for sure. The young lady named Akira. She has been absolutely amazing. I'll be sitting here sometimes and she's like, "Coach, what's going on, man?" I'm like, "What's good, AQ? How's it going?" "Oh, I got another girl for you. I got a girl that want to come." I'm like, "Look, so I said, you let me know when you're done playing ball so I can add you onto my assistant coaching roster here soon." So, but I even try to tell her, and I try to tell all the girls, like trauma can kill flowers, but at the same time, that same trauma can kill the weeds and make the flowers grow. So,
Mm,
you got to put yourself in a position where how are we as a team, as a program, myself included, all being in that same boat, like you mentioned, how are we going to make this thing work? How are we going to get to that next step and next level of who we truly want to be?
yeah, yeah, definitely. That's awesome. It's like you got a player coach out there. That's cool too. A guy ready to
Mhm.
join the bench right after. That's cool to have somebody who's so bought in and so excited, for what it is that you got going on. So let's talk about at an individual level with your experience working with players who are going through adversity, whether it's on the court or off the court. What have you kind of found to be, those situations where, maybe your players have been tested, they're going through adversity, they're kind of hitting that wall, and what did you kind of have to do to work with that player to kind of help them, be able to get through it and be able to kind of overcome whatever that situation may have been.
Well, I like to try to use real life examples, especially
Hmm.
from this current team, as much as possible. I actually have a young lady who she had a child in the middle of her first season. She played about 2 years ago, had to take some time off. When the team shut down, she kind of mentally shut down really, really bad.
Mm,
She let her grades slip a little bit. She ended up becoming homeless. Her mom kind of kicked her out. She's definitely back on her feet now and doing well. But in meeting this young lady, when I met her, she was still kind of trying to bounce back of, I don't even know if I want to play anymore, coach. I don't know if I want to get back out there. I think I just want to work. And I'm like, girl, you were 6'2". Like let's talk about this first. Let's really work on this. And um it's harder for me as a male to
hmm.
kind of reach down to certain levels of what she needed as a female athlete, which is for me very important that I have my assistant coach be a female, so that they can have those conversations. But it also put me in a situation where I had to kind of humble myself, and I had to think of my own daughter, and I had to say, you know what can I say to this young lady to make her comfortable enough to not just want to play basketball, but to finish her education? And we talked so much about her child, and we talked so much about what she truly wants out of herself. Because a lot of people, especially here in the Detroit area, they get so stagnant with, oh, well, my family's here and we've been living on this block for forever. And I
Yeah.
know everybody in this way. And oh, so we're cool. And I had to get her in that mindset of, what are you going to do when the ball really, truly stops bouncing for you? What are you going to do when there's no air left and you have to really figure it out and you have to get away from your family and you have to go, make those big girl moves? And she kind of sat down and she broke down just a little bit. And she's like, look, coach, I just want the best for my son.
Mm.
And at that point, again, like I was saying earlier, I have to be as real as possible with my players. And, I had to kind of express to her, I felt the same way when I had my daughter. Like when I had my daughter, I was kind of sitting there and I was a little stagnant. I had moved back home because of COVID. I wanted to be around my family when
Yeah.
realistically I had a lot of really good things going for me in North Carolina as well. I had a great mentor. I was coaching, I was training, but when I hit that mental wall myself, I had to go back to my roots and kind of ground myself. So I used that example for her, and I said, it's okay to ground yourself sometimes. It's okay to sit back and reflect, but now it's time for you to move forward because you have someone else looking at you. So in looking at those different things, I try to again soften myself up just a little bit. Now it's a little different when I coach my boys. I show them a little bit more tough love, man.
Yeah.
But it's such a growing experience for me because now I'm dealing with people who are, 19, 20, a couple fresh out of high school, but then I have a girl who she's, going on 24 this year. And I'm like, okay, how do I really speak to you in a tone where I'm respecting you as an adult? I'm respecting you as a player. I'm respecting you as a person, as a woman. How am I going to be able to truly get through to you to handle these different situations? And I found it being with the transparency. I can only be honest with you because if I sit here and act like I know everything, or if I don't give you those life examples, or if I'm not willing to go search for those answers for you, you're instantly going to shut right back down. So it's all about trying to, build those relationships in ways where um, these young ladies and all my young players in general can feel like they're at home with themselves. Like you should
Mm.
always come around your coach and feel like you can be you. You shouldn't have to hide who you are. If you like to sing and dance, go ahead and sing and dance. If you're the quiet type, okay, you could be quiet, but sometimes I am gonna, you know, ask you to communicate with me just a little bit so I can understand fully what's going on. So just trying to be as passionate as I can, man. And trying to again throw out my life for the for the looks for the opening lack of better terms. I want to be a complete open book with my players.
There's, just hearing that story that you mentioned about that one young lady, it really is truly amazing how uh much our players have going on, right? How many situations that they find, and every player is unique, and every player has their own background that they come in and their life situation that they come in, and to your point, right? You never really know one what a player's situation is, but also two, like what that player needs to hear and what that player needs out of their coach and what they need their coach to be in order to handle that adversity. Because some players, they need that pat on the back and they need that encouragement. Some of them just need an adult to listen to them, and some of them need like maybe a little bit more, motivation or a little bit more like energy on it. And it's truly incredible just how there's no two players are the same. And it sounds like for you, it's really important for you to kind of understand what clicks with that player so you know how to have that conversation with them.
Open gyms. As a new coach, I
Yeah.
recommend it more than anything. I'm like, have an open gym just so you can see who's your loudmouth, who's going to do all the
Hmm.
talking, who's not going to say much, who's going to be the one that they get frustrated because somebody's going at them or ready to kick the ball across the gym. Once you build that relationship and you start to really truly learn your player, you're going to know exactly how you can talk to them. Because that same young lady who does all the recruiting for me, I could scream and yell at her and call her, "Hey, big tattoos, what you got going on today?" And she's going to respond very well. But now, someone like the young lady who went through the homelessness situation, I have to be a lot more soft with her and get to know her a little bit more to make her actually comfortable to open up. And
Hmm.
it's funny because we have the same birthday, and I told her I was like,
Uh,
I said we're complete opposites, man. I was like, but it's okay. I said,
yeah.
it out and we'll get you to where you need to be. I said, but at the end of the day, I had to make her comfortable enough to even open up about that situation.
Yeah, that's really cool. It made me think of a girl I have this year who it's really funny because I see her in the hallway, I see her around a lot, and she's very quiet, very respectful, a real nice kid, a great student, and you talk to her and the conversations are really light, really friendly, really polite, but then on the court, she's one of those who wants you to be really hard on her, to really push her and to really get on her and not allow her to, get away with any mistakes and just be really hold her to the highest standard of accountability. And it's just really interesting how even the way that some of these players are off the court, though their personality, their demeanor on the court can be completely different. It's
Yeah.
pretty fascinating. I
So
wanted to ask Coach about you'll with coaching, of course. We also have players who hit that adversity wall on the court. They hit, a shooting slump. They hit something where maybe they're committing a lot of turnovers, or maybe they're not being consistent one way or another, and they're going through things on the court, or things aren't clicking the way that they want them to on the court. Um, in your experience with players who are kind of having that on the court difficulty, is it how do you kind of like diagnose what that player kind of needs to kind of get them out of it? How do you kind of know if it's like a mental block, if it's something that they physically need to work on? What are those situations and what have those been like?
now with that one for me, I'm gonna stick on the relationships piece just a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I At that point, I need to know who is their go-to person because sometimes you as a coach, like you can talk to someone and they're totally gonna blow up, they're gonna shut down, they don't want to hear from you at all. That might be your biggest superstar, and maybe you guys, you love each other, but you kind of butt heads just a little bit. But you might notice that the girl who works really, really hard at practice, but she's not just quite there yet, is her best friend. And her best friend can calm her down through any storm. So sometimes you have to just find who is their person on that team, on that roster. I try to stay away from having to be a parent. I'm like, please don't be a parent in the middle of the game. Like, I need
Uh-huh.
you to focus on, who's actually at practice with us. But finding who their person is, once you can find out who their person is, you can send them directly to that person. Like, hey, go sit next to Coach Jay. Go sit down there and go, talk to 15 real quick. I know that's your girl. Or sometimes I'll just grab the other person. I'll say, hey, go talk to her real quick. Let them know it's okay. Let them know, go lay the ball up a couple times before you keep shooting that deep ball. I know you're a shooter, but just see it go in. Because if it comes out of my mouth, it's almost like I'm the parent and talking to a child, and then the child goes and talks to their best friend, and it's like the newest thing on the planet. So sometimes you have to just really find their person. If you are that person for them, just knowing how to talk to them in that situation, let them know that it'll be okay. I always lead off with that first, like, hey, it'll be okay. It might not be okay right now, but we can get you to that point. And I think a lot of the time it does start in practice. And then looking at those practice different drills that we can do. I like to put my girls, my athletes in different failure type situations. I don't like to instantly give them the affirmations at practice. I'll give you the affirmations at the game. That's what I'm there for. I'm your biggest cheerleader. But in my actual practice, I'm going to put you in a situation where I'm telling the defense, hey, offense can only score in the paint. Offense is only allowed to shoot threes. Okay, let's go 5-on-4. Let's go 6-on-5. Okay, all right, you keep scoring, you're getting through it. You know what? Let's go 5-on-3. Let's see if you can actually, get a stop or you can still score or whatever else. Because at that point, you get back into the game and you have so much confidence because it
Yeah.
forces you to talk. It's now forcing you to communicate. And I can step back and again, I can be your cheerleader now. Yes, I'm trying my best to, coach you and put you in the right positions. But if you've already now put yourself in the right position with those other, athletes that are on the floor with you, that it's unbeatable. You could walk into any game in any gym, and if your communication is there, because the fact that coach is always setting you up for failure, you're going to be ready for all of your wins.
It's one of the things about your response that I think is really important to kind of emphasize is that, as a coach, sometimes you have to know that, what your player maybe needs, isn't from you, right? They need to hear it from someone else. So they need to have somebody else who's going to be their, go-to person to talk to. I know as a coach, I remember, especially when I was younger, I wanted to I wanted to be in everything, I wanted to dive into everything, every problem. I wanted to solve it with a player. I wanted to be like the person who was in control of everything. And I think I think I found that that spread me really thin because I just didn't have like the capacity to be that person. And two, like I also wasn't maybe the best person for every situation. Like you mentioned, it may have been a teammate, it may have been another coach that they had a different relationship with. And I think, kind of knowing who that go-to person is who can like, get them out of it and say like, hey, just keep your head up, keep shooting, work on your follow through, and then boom, send them off. You know, I could say that same message, but it may be completely different knowing that it came from that other person than it did from me.
And sometimes just in the heat of the moment as a coach, you'll see yourself in the game and you're getting really hot because you're like,
Hmm.
you're a shooter. What are you doing? Or blah, blah, blah. So as soon as they come off, you just start ripping into them and you don't realize I'm really breaking this person down because they needed the soft conversation in that moment. Or, maybe they did, like the young lady you described earlier, maybe she needed me to hold her to the highest standard when I'm looking at her and I'm like, no, it's okay. And she's like, what do you mean it's going to be okay? Like it's not okay. I need you to tell me like fix my form or fix this or dive on the ground. So again, reading the room and allowing myself to step back when I need to or step in when I need to and not try to come off so hot to a girl that needs a cold conversation. So it's definitely a process of, again, getting to know your players.
That's and that to me, I think that that's also something really really good in terms of like empowering your coaches and empowering your players. Because I know for me, right, like in a tense situation or in a game, like I if I need to talk to a player and I pull them out, since my attention is maybe 5, 10 other different places, and maybe I can't have that conversation and give that player the attention that they need or fully, describe what it is that they need from me. But I know that, hey, not only do they have a good relationship with that player or that coach, but they also have a little bit more time to focus on that conversation and really, really give that information to them. And so, empowering those players, empowering those coaches, especially in those game situations, is so crucial. So you don't put all that burden on yourself.
And it comes with a lot of trust as well. Like you have to
Hmm.
trust that assistant coach. You have to trust that other player that they're going to say the right thing. You can't just be hovering over their conversation. Like, no, that's not what I want you to be saying to them. Like they need to shoot more. They need to dive on the like
Yeah,
you have to let them be with their person in that moment. Because again, that person is going to know exactly how to get them back on a mental track. Now they might shoot 0 for 20 for the whole game, but at least you have the confidence to go put up those 20 shots if you're a 20 shot a game type of person.
if
Because
they're good shots.
I tell yeah, but I tell my players all the time, you can't go out there and you average 10 shots a game. And now because you're having some mental lapse, now you only shot the ball 6 times. You
Mm,
automatically are telling us that we're gonna lose. If you're gonna contribute to our team, I'm gonna get 3 fouls a game, but that's because I'm playing the hardest defense in the world. I need you to get those 3 fouls a game. Don't walk off
right.
the two because now you're not giving us the same chance, the same opportunity. So again, allowing them to trust each other, and as a coach, is sometimes hard, especially when it's a player-to-player type relationship, because you're listening out for if they're uh, undermining kind of the coach a little bit or whatever else. But at the end of the day, you have to say, you know what, I've sat in your seat as well. As a player, I've sat in that same seat, and I knew sometimes I wanted to hear from my best friend more than I wanted to hear from my coach. Or sometimes I had an assistant coach I may not have gotten along with as much, but I got along with the head coach. So I don't need to hear it from the assistant because now I'm just gonna get upset. I
Yeah.
need my head coach in that moment. So just about again figuring out who that person is.
Yeah, no, no, definitely, and that to your point too about that empowerment for sure. How do you in your program with your practices? I know we've talked a little bit on it around it, but I want to kind of talk about it directly.
Mhm.
How do you kind of build in your practices situations where there's going to be adversity, maybe situations where there's going to be difficulty, but also where they're able to kind of overcome it and kind of work through those adversity. Because I know it could be tough as a coach to kind of build, a hard practice and a tough practice, but also have your players feel empowered at the end of it and feel like they're successful rather than beaten down at the end of it. So what has that process been like for you to have those practices of those teachable moments, so to speak.
You immediately give them teams at the beginning. You absolutely separate them into two separate teams for the day, and you are not switching. You are not making any sort of substitution. Like if you're on a white group today, you're on a white group. If you're on a blue group, you're on a blue group. And a lot of time, unless we're obviously, going into some game prep, I'm not mixing people that, play together all the time. I'm going to put you in a group that's going to make you very uncomfortable. I might put all the guards together one day. I might put all the bigs on the other team. I might put all the starters on one team. I might have, the second group pretty much doing more things than the starters might be doing. I'm going to put you in different situations where you're looking at me like, okay, coach is a little crazy for this one, but it works. And I like to, again, call them failure drills. I want to go over something at the 5-on-5 level or 5-on-0 level. And then I want to step out and say, okay, we're playing 6-on-5. Even though I just taught it to you 5-on-5, or I just taught it to you 5-on-0, or okay, we're immediately going into a defensive drill. But I'm telling the offense, hey, you can only score in certain areas. You can only score in the mid range. You can only score in the post. You can only score in the paint, or whatever else the case may be. So I try to put them in situations again where you're set up to win. If you are always put where your back is against the wall, and as me as a coach, I'm going to sit back sometimes and just watch how you figure it out. I want to see your thought process. So I'm going to let you get so frustrated that, okay, let me call a timeout. You guys huddle up down here. You guys huddle up down there. I might scream, yell just a little bit, but after that, I want to see what you're going to talk about in that huddle and how you're going to come out of it and actually fight. Because I'm very, very big on, in the middle of a game, foul happens, please huddle up really quick, talk about it. Okay, we in this defense, we in this offense. All right, let's get back to it. If you're on the bench, we get an extra 10 points every game if y'all are just loud and, creating chaos from over on our sideline, whether you clapping, saying some sort of chant, whether it's the defense or you just, hey, we in help, we got this person's open at the rim. You're frustrating teams because we preach communication so much as coaches, but how many teams actually come in the gym and do it? How many teams get into the game and you're hearing help, 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 and blah, blah, blah the whole game? And I've been actually pretty successful at getting most of my teams to communicate, and it freaks other teams out because they're like, oh my gosh, they know our plays. They know our plays. And it's like, no, we don't know your plays at all, but we know to be in the right position. We know to say all the right things because coaches put us in a situation where there were 6 or 7 people out there and it was just us 5. We learned how to
Yeah.
shrink the floor. We learned how to run people off the line and kind of recover a little bit. Like I love Tony Bennett's pack line defense. So like I'm like, hey, run them off the line and get them out the yard and make sure that they are shooting mid-range jump shots opposed to getting to the basket and getting easy layups, or opposed to shooting that deep ball like so many athletes like to do nowadays. So make them uncomfortable, make them shoot shots that they don't typically shoot or typically work on. But setting up those different failure drills, putting them on separate teams and not switching up those teams, it builds a lot of character. It puts them in situations again where it is very adverse because now you're working with someone that you're not used to working with, or now you're working with the team that you're exactly used to working with, but now there's only 3 of you out there going against the 5. So putting them in what I like to call failure drills.
Well, that I think comes down to also like your practice culture, it sounds like is definitely built on the fact that you want failure. You want players to stumble. You want players to struggle, but also that it's a safe place to struggle. It's a safe place to fail, and I think that's so important that players can feel that they're allowed to struggle. They're allowed to like face that adversity in practice. That it's welcome, right? It's like encouraged. Like they should be failing. They should be in difficult situations in practice, and I think that if coaches, say that from the out front. They say that in the beginning that like, hey, practice is where you're going to struggle. It's where you're going to fail. It's where you're going to face those difficulties, but it's going to make you stronger in those games. I think that builds up that motivation, hopefully, for players to feel like it's okay that they're going to give it their all, and if they fail and they stumble, they're not going to be in trouble, so to speak.
Yeah. Even with just small drills, as far as ball handling, different things like that. Whether we're stationary or on the move, I'll have one of, hey, partner up, and I'll have the other athlete, bumping them on the hip, or pushing them or trying to actually steal the ball from them the whole time while they're doing ball handling. Because not only does it put you in that adverse situation where you're, really trying to handle the ball, but now you're trying to keep it away from somebody. You're trying to keep your feet grounded in the actual ground, or if we're on the move, you're trying to focus on, hey, I need to take a step every time I take a dribble. I don't want to just dribble in place and think that I'm dancing, but I'm not dancing with feet. I'm not actually getting anywhere, creating any space. So I think that you can find different ways all throughout your practice to make it difficult, but also put them in a situation where they're allowed to grow.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. I think that one of the messages that I try to tell my players, I try to tell my girls, and it's really great when it finally clicks to them. And I think I've mentioned this on other episodes before, is I tell the girls that that your teammates are the ones who should be pushing you the hardest. Your teammates should be the ones who are challenging you the most and pushing you the most, because they're the ones who should be wanting you to get better the most. And by doing that, the only way they can do that is by pushing you as hard as they can. So not getting upset if they're getting a little physical with you, or not accepting, mediocrity or low standards, and, have those people that you trust the most get on you the most, because I mean, we have a team like that, then man, the possibilities I think are endless when you have, players who are willing to be pushed, and are willing to, let their friends and let their teammates, challenge them, and really take it to them in a practice situation.
When it hits the fan, we cannot check in as a coach. As bad as we want to sometimes. Oh my
Right.
gosh, I know exactly what I want to run. I know exactly how to break this down. I've been watching this girl go to her left all game. There's nothing I can
Put
do,
me in.
at that moment. But if your own teammate is telling you, like, girl, she's been cooking you, she's been going to the left all game, she's been blah blah blah, it's going to click a lot faster. Now it might be a quick heated argument, but that's when I step in. Hey, just listen, like, whatever the case may be. But it's a lot easier now because you're on the floor with that same person. So even if you do get beat off the dribble to the left again, they're the one that's going to step up for you and help side. They're the one that's going to be the next one to rotate over. They're going to be the one to, like I said, run you off the line and make them shoot something that's a little bit more uncomfortable. So um, building up those different situations to, again, kind of go back, like I said earlier, find that trust. You got to trust your players to be able to lead each other. We're the ultimate leader as a coach. But at the same time, sometimes we got to step back and we have to be the co-pilot.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So now that we kind of talked a little bit about practice, talk about individual situations. Of course, in a game situation, you're gonna get, your team. It's gonna face a tough team. It's gonna, maybe things aren't going well as a team. Maybe it's just a high pressure environment. The adverse situation comes in many different forms in a game situation. So let me talk about you personally, and as a coach, when you face that adverse situation against that tough opponent, or you're in a tense situation, or whatever the case may be, how do you as a coach make sure that you're on point, that you're focused, and that your attention is where it needs to be, and that you aren't getting, overwhelmed, or losing who you are as a coach in that adverse game or in that tough situation?
I have to always remind myself it's not a battle with the scoreboard. It's always going to be a mental battle for me as a coach, and understanding that's a mental battle in itself for my players. So one thing that I do is, and all my players know this, whether I'm up 50, down 50, tight game, close, whatever, I never sit down. I don't care if it's a timeout. I don't care if it's warm-ups, like whatever else it is. I'm on my feet the whole game because my players know once I sit down, I pretty much have given up on them. I've pretty much showed that I'm defeated. When I was a lot younger and I was doing AAU, it used to be a little bit different of a time. I used to always wear my backpack while I coached. And they knew if I took my backpack off, I was losing my mind just a little bit. I was going a little bit crazy. I was kind of going off into the deep end. Now I'm like, I can't really wear my backpack on the college sideline. So I have to figure out different ways to kind of show that. Um,
Yeah.
I again try to just tell myself, like, you know what, stay on your feet. Don't show anybody that you're giving up. Keep coaching throughout the game. Again, we're up 50, down 50, whatever it may be. Keep giving those same exact points that you would be given if the game was close. Keep calling it the same way that you would if your best players out there or your last group is out there, I don't want to give anybody a different experience. I don't want to give them a different version of me. I want to give them something that is consistent and that they're comfortable with. Um, so again, in that situation, especially, when it's tough, it's close, I might have to even have my assistant say, hey, call a timeout really quick, like take a deep breath or whatever else it may be. And I need to trust them in that process. And every timeout, I like to let my players talk first. And with the group of girls that I have out here in
Mhm.
Detroit, man, they're a little rougher and tougher. So they'll tell me like, coach, you tripping, man. Like, what's going on? So, I have to allow myself to be um, again, that co-pilot and transparent enough to say, you know what, I am. Let me relax. Let me get back to what I know. Let me not just be calling a play because that's my favorite play. Let me look at my lineup and call a play based on who's out there or what's actually working. Or I try not to let the defense dictate what we do. I try to say we can dictate what a defense does, because we can shoot anybody out of any zone. We can hop in any sort of set on the man-to-man end and we can get it done. But I need to make sure that my mind is clear. And with my mind being clear, I know I got to stand up. I got to walk back up and down that
Yeah.
sideline. I gotta, get my coach to pull me back sometimes when I'm coming out of the coach's box, But as long as I'm up
That's
and
me.
I'm
Yeah.
moving, as long as I'm up and I'm moving, man, I know that my mental is right there in the game. I'm not listening to people in the crowds, no matter, what it is. Coach, call a timeout. Coach, put this person in or put that shooter in. They're killing you. They blah, blah, blah. I don't, I don't feed into any of it. And I'm not even one of those coaches where after the game, I'm like, okay, give me 24 hours. If you want to talk about it, let's talk about it. Now, some things I do need to go sit down and watch film on first, but other things, let's address it. Let's, give you that open space, because for you as a player, um, you deserve that respect as well to say, you know what, I had something on my mind. I feel like this didn't work or that didn't work. And now it gives me the time to kind of go sit back and evaluate and say, you know what, maybe it didn't work. Versus if I give myself that 24 hours, I'm gonna be more so set in my ways. I'm gonna be more so, oh, I already watched the film. No, you can't tell me anything about that. You really didn't shoot the way I need you to shoot, or you really didn't,
Mhm.
step up on this girl in that certain way, or blah 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 blah. So I try to again make it about saying the biggest thing. It's not about the scoreboard. Obviously, at this level, you want to win games, but I also want to make sure that I am able to keep my mental cool. I want to make sure my girls can keep their mental cool, and walk off the court, win or lose, and say, you know what, I learned today. I learned.
Yeah.
I tell them all the time, you win or you learn. You win or you learn. But even in your wins, you still learn the game. You still get that extra playing experience. You get an opportunity to be who you want to be out there on the court.
To your point about the way that you kind of carry yourself, I think that it's so important as coaches that we realize how much our body language is picked up on by our players. They're always looking at us, they'll take a look at us and they'll know, right? They'll know, oh, he sat down, or oh, like he said this or he didn't say this, or oh, I can tell by the way he is, maybe he's not as engaged anymore. Like I think sometimes we can maybe think that we're can hide something, but our body language over the course of a game is going to really give away how it is that we feel. And so, to your point of like making sure that if you're the type of coach who's always up and you're always moving, always be that person. If you're the type of person who believes in, communicating a certain way or approaching things a certain way, like staying consistent on that, because anything that is different from that, your players pick up on right away. And once they pick up on it right away, then they know like, hey, something's wrong or something's up, something's odd, what's going on? And now it's going to be in their head that you're acting a little bit different than you normally do. And even if it was just something as maybe seemingly innocent as just like sitting down for a little bit, that could be enough to just, throw your players off completely seeing that.
And it even goes into halftime. If you're the
Hmm.
type of person that you like to sit down, you bring out your clipboard, whatever else, even if you don't have anything to go over at that moment, still bring out that clipboard. Still, take that seat. Let that be your time where you sat down, you took your deep breath. If you always let the players talk first, allow them to still talk first, whether we're up or down. Because as soon as you switch it up, like you said, they can read you so well. And that can be the make or break for their mental within that game. They're gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, my coach just quit on me. What do I do?
Hmm.
I quit as well." And it's funny you say that with the language thing because I teach as well, and my students know all the time. I say, first off, good morning, or first off, good afternoon. If I don't hit them with the first off part, they're like, oh, he is pissed. I do not want to cross him today. And I'm like, wait, I said, do I really do that? And I have to kind of recycle and back on track because my students are like, oh, you always say first off, Mr. Fosha. So it's the same thing with my coaching style. If I always walk in and I dap up every player, I have to dap up every player every single time. I can't come in and be like, all right, let's just get straight to practice. Because in that moment, they're going to be like, okay, coach is a little off today, or this
Hmm.
might be a harder practice than usual, or whatever else. Now it's going to be a hard practice regardless, but I have to still give you those cues of, hey, I'm here, the consistent pieces here, and understanding that again, it's a mental battle. It's not a scoreboard battle. It's let's get to the next play, let's get to the next moment, let's make sure that you're okay, no matter how your game is going that day.
Yeah, that's, everything, like yeah, like what it is that you preach, right? Or what it is that you believe in as a coach, you got to believe those things when you're going through adversity. You can't just throw them all away when something's difficult. And I think that could be, I think that that could be really challenging. I think it's great, as a coach to have, all of these standards and things you want to do as a culture and all those things that you believe in as a coach. And I think there's a difference in what that means in, June, July, August when you say those things versus okay, but now when it's December, January, February, is that something that you still believe in? And I think that that's a good tool, I think, for coaches to kind of reflect on is to think of, like, those things that you preach or those things that you say that you're about and the things that you say you're going to do, you can't forget about those because your players aren't going to forget about those. And then that trust piece comes into play and it can get pretty messy pretty quick.
How you react is everything. If I'm
Mm,
throwing my hands up in the air because you missed an assignment, now you're gonna automatically think, "Oh, coach is taking me out. Let me
oh
stop
yeah.
harder. Let me play extra harder." Coach, why'd you? Nope. I'm gonna give you kind of the same reaction I would always give you. And if I'm able to do that, you're gonna have the confidence to say, "It's okay that I messed up. It's okay that I didn't give my all on that play." Like, and I saw a video one day, it's like, it's not, got to change up the verbiage sometimes and get used to saying it's not okay. But at the same time, it's okay mentally that you aren't where you need to be right now because we can still fix it. We can still learn from that moment. We can still get you to where you need to be. And again, that's calling that timeout or you coming to the bench and finding your person.
Yeah, love it. No, no, absolutely, 100% agree. Um, when you are, is it when your team, so in a game situation, then let's kind of think back, and I know there might be similarities to previous answers you gave, but I want to make sure I kind of cover all bases. When a game situation's happening, maybe you notice as a team that whether your team is nervous, your team is struggling, you just kind of get a sense and a vibe in a game. Maybe it's at halftime that, things seem off and is the team itself isn't where they need to be. What are those conversations that you're having with your team, maybe during timeouts or during halftime, when you can tell that something's a little weird or maybe they're struggling a little bit to kind of get them reframed and kind of get their mind right and focus on the task at hand?
You got to come out of basketball mode in those moments. You
Mm-hmm.
have to go back into, okay, you know what? This is still life. This is like, let's relax. Like, let's tell a quick joke really quick, or let's really see what's going on, or and in those moments I might say, I'm gonna let my assistant coach take this. There's no offense to, what I have going on, or I'm, at that moment, again, I don't want to switch up too much because I don't want the dynamic to look different. But it's also kind of going back to what I said earlier with, you got to be fully transparent with your team. I should be able to look at you in the middle of the game and say, something's off. Like, what's wrong? What are you thinking about today? What happened today? Who hurt you? Who said something to you that pissed you off? Like, what's the issue? You know, like, take a deep breath. Like, let's count to 10 as a team really quick, to get you kind of refocused and readjusted. Because you said it earlier, sometimes we have absolutely no clue what our players go through. Um, I actually had a kid this year who he lost his dad, and I showed up for him for the funeral, everything. He kind of broke down, but you see him walking around the hallways, and then you see him in the game, and you wouldn't even be able to tell. And
Mm.
it was such a hard situation because it's like, okay, is he not grieving? Is he already done grieving? Is he
Yeah.
putting himself in a situation where he's just distracting himself? He hasn't been able to really sit down yet. But you kind of cater to it, and you see it in certain moments. You say, you know what? I understand why you're a little upset today. I understand why you're a little off today. Um, and you give them again that comfortability to actually speak up and say something. You know, a lot of times you'll ask some of these young athletes, "Hey, man, what's going on? Hey, young lady, what's going on?" And nothing, coach. It's all right. You know, and you can hear it in their voice, you can hear it in their tone, you can see it
Yeah.
in their body language, and it's like, no, we have to get to a point, even in the game, where I can see it. I see you arguing with this teammate. You never argue with this teammate. Okay, what happened? Let's talk about it. I'll call a back-to-back timeout if I need to. We could use our TV timeout and then we'll call another one, or we could talk about it at halftime. But right now, I need you to play. Right now, I need you to, whatever it may be. I'm not a big fan on girls kind of or any of my athletes subbing themselves out, but as sometimes it is needed. Sometimes it's, hey, coach, I really just need this mental break. I need to just think really quick, or I need to talk to my person, or I need to put myself in a situation where I can focus on this game again. And again, I try to stay all the way away from letting them go talk to their parents. But sometimes even that's needed. You
Mm.
might have a player that they've played for their dad their whole career, and now this is the first time that they're not playing for their dad. So now it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? I don't know how to function. You talk to your dad, but you got 30 seconds. You
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
talk to this person, but we got to get back to it. So again, the transparency piece and allowing them to be the real leaders. We don't have captains. That's one thing that I don't do. I don't select a captain. I'm like, you guys are all captains. I should be able to send anybody up, to go advocate for our team that day. I may pick a sophomore, I may pick a freshman, I may pick someone that doesn't really play much, because at the end of the day, we all hold each other accountable. We're all, driving this ship. We're all in the same boat. Like we started this conversation out, we are all in the exact same boat of trying to create
Mm.
what we want.
No, that's that. Yeah, it's so like it's so interesting how there's so many right ways to handle, those sort of conversations, right? And like we talked about that trust piece of like, hey, like pull you out if you need to come out for a little bit. I don't like when players sub each other out, but I trust that if you need to, you can reset yourself and come back in every player, like we kind of talked about, is different in the way that those conversations need to happen. And like you said, for some players, right, like you need to, if they tell you everything's fine and you know that it's not fine, it's like, well, no, now we got to sit down and we got to have a conversation because I know that's not the case. And, for other players, I know I've been in situations where, sometimes players will say like, hey, like, things aren't going that well right now, but I'm going to focus on basketball because this takes my mind off of it. And then maybe like we can talk about it after practice. And I think that it's just so interesting and so fascinating, how unique all of our players are and how all of them have unique needs. And as coaches, I mean, I feel like we can't know our players enough. There's always more to learn. There's
Yeah.
always more to know about our players, right?
And we see basketball as a safe space, especially as coaches. It's why we coach. But for
Hmm.
them, it might be the worst thing in the world to go out there on the court while they have something going on. For me,
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, if I got something going on, all I need to do is go shoot for a couple hours, and I'm probably not even thinking about it anymore.
Yeah.
For that next person, for them, it might be, please don't crack a joke right now, or I'm gonna break down and cry, or please don't, yell at me right now, because then that's it for me. Or the next one's gonna
Hmm.
be like, I needed to hear that joke, or I needed to,
Yeah.
get yelled at, because now I'm back focused again. So again, learning those relationships through those different adverse situations definitely helps.
Yeah, awesome, coach. I wanted to ask you before we hit our concluding segment. I wanted to ask about now that you're jumping into this college situation, and you're recruiting players, you're talking to players, you're gauging players' interests. Um, what are some of those conversations in general like with these players that you're recruiting? Are there situations that you see that they're kind of going through when they're trying to make their recruiting decision? Are there things that are weighing on their mind? What are some of those conversations like, and how are you kind of working through them to kind of see if they're going to be the right fit for your program or not?
Now it's a big difference, I will say, between like my transfers and then my girls coming directly out of high school.
Hmm.
With my transfers, having that conversation with them is, why are you even leaving the school that you're going to currently? What different things are going through your mind as far as you think you're just going to come here and run the show, or are you trying to actually be a part of the program that we're trying to build? Like what's your mindset look like? And on the freshman end, it's what I found is that it's typically not the players. They want to come out of high school and they just want to play. They don't care if it's D1, D2, D3, NAIA, JUCO. They just want to play. Now, it's a little different with boys. Every boy wants to go D1. On the girls' end, they just want to play. And what I've found is that it's never the girls, it's always their parents. It's always is my baby going to be safe? Is my baby, doing this? Or why are they going to JUCO? Well, so many of these high schools now have, these programs where they're already getting college accredited classes anyways, or they're already walking out with their associates. So it's like now I'm explaining to them, your child is getting 2 years of experience at the college level. We're seeing if they can actually manage being a student athlete at this level, because it's much different than high school. You sit in the same building all day, you take your 5 to 7 classes or whatever it is, and then you go home or you go to your practice and that's that. Now I'm putting you in a situation where you're in charge of your own classes because they're all online. Yes, I have study halls. Yes, I have what I like to call class day. So you have to come in and you have to work on your class in front of me. And I have different things that I can offer at that point. But now it's like I'm making the parent as comfortable as possible. I always like to start off with, first off, are you even interested in playing college basketball? Because a lot of young ladies on the flip side of, oh, I just want to play, are oh, I just play for fun. Oh, I only play because all my best friends play. And it's like, girl, you averaged 20 points a game. What do you mean? So
Yeah,
I actually
like
ran into,
casually, yeah.
oh my goodness, I ran into a girl this year. She was 1,000 point scorer at her high school, and she has absolutely no intentions on playing college basketball, not even a little bit. So
Wow.
you run into, situations like that. And it's like, are you even interested? And once they kind of tell you that they're interested, that's where, excuse me, that's
Mhm.
where for me, it's instantly that transparency piece, hey, this is the type of program we are. Unfortunately, the last year, 2 years didn't go, as planned, but here's my plan as the new coach. Here is what I would like to do. I would like to develop you enough to get you to that green light status. Or if you're already a green light type of player, I don't want to take that away from you. I want you to come in and be exactly who you are. I want you to come in and feel like you're at home. I want you to come in and feel safe and nurtured, because this is a family. We are building that tradition. We are building that program. I don't want you to look up and say, you know what? We had a really good season. We had a really good team this year. And now I don't talk to any of these girls anymore. I don't talk to coach anymore. I actually got off the phone earlier with one of my players from down in North Carolina, and I moved back here close to 5 years ago now. And he called me and said, Coach, you're one of the only coaches I talk to. Like, you're one of the only ones that still has my attention. And I was like,
Oh, that's
that's
great.
great, man. Like, it's great to hear. But like at the same time, it's kind of heartbreaking sometimes that, a lot of coaches don't keep in touch with their players. I sometimes I have conversation with my old college coach, and just to see how he's doing, how his family's doing, or my AAU team, we were so tight knit as kids, and you know, now we're talking, hey, how can we get a reunion together? I haven't seen some of you guys forever, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
You're looking up and you don't realize that, again, almost like we talked about earlier, you never know what somebody's really going through because a lot of people won't say anything. So, you'll look up and now one of your teammates is really going through a life-changing moment, and oh, I haven't talked to them in 2, 3 years. What do you mean? And like, these are some
Yeah, right.
moments of your life, is so I try to put myself in a situation where I can say, hey, my phone's always open. So like you kind of called me out on it earlier. You said, the time difference and what time it would be over here. But for me, I'm like, hey, if one of my girls calls me at 3 in the morning because, oh, we all went out and blah blah blah, and we just need a ride home, I'd rather you call me and instead of now I got to come pick you up from a police station somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather give
Absolutely. Yeah.
you, you know, that option to say, you know what, this is really truly my family. So just really preaching the family aspect, preaching the transparency, trying to give them that open window of, hey, you know, I'm human too. You know, yes, I do like to get my rest when I can, but at the same time, I'm here for you. I'm not just recruiting you and, you know, and now I'm just a lost number in your phone. You know, you're gonna hear from me.
Yeah.
Your family's gonna hear from me. You're gonna always feel like a family member. You know.
Love it. No, that's fantastic, coach. Always just so powerful to be that person that a player knows that they can call no matter what the situation or what the time is. Like it's just so much beyond basketball at that point. That's
Yeah.
incredible. To wrap up, coach, there's a couple questions I ask every guest. So starting with this first one, thinking back on your coaching career, what is a moment from your coaching career that you think our listeners would be able to learn from?
I would say more than anything, don't be afraid to shape your program to your players and not your players to your program. You can't get in the habit of, oh, you know, I'm gonna run the same set no matter what. You might have a guard heavy team that year, you might have a big heavy team, you might have a balanced team. Um, and early on in my coaching career, that's exactly what I did. I stuck to my certain plays. I knew exactly why they worked. And I said, you know what? This is perfect. You know, this is my system, and that's just who I'm going to be. And the more I kind of got into my coaching career, I found myself saying, you know what? This set doesn't work with this team because I don't have the same ball handler that I had with that last year's team. I don't have the same shooter that I had with that last year's team. So allowing um, different opportunities again to shape your program to your players. Don't, you know, get stuck in your ways of saying, you know what, I'm a flex guy and that's it, because
Hmm.
not everybody can run flex. Not everybody can run horns. Now, I can teach it to death, but at the same time, like you said earlier, I don't need to reinvent the wheel, but I can go and learn from other people. I can go steal a set from this coach because I noticed that they had this type of roster that year. Or I can, you know, go steal this type of defense from this coach because I noticed they had a slow foot, you know, guard. You know, she's great on the offensive end, but she's terrible on defense. So let me kind of mask her just a little bit. So allowing myself to always continue my growth in the game, allowing myself to continue learning. But again, shaping everything that I do to the players that I have on that roster, because my roster, especially at the JUCO level, is going to look a lot different next year than it does this year. And
Yeah.
in two
Yeah.
years, it's going to look completely different because all my girls will be gone. So understanding who I have, how I have them, and what you know, level of playing do I have them, and just allowing them to be themselves. I don't want to turn you into a horns player if I know that you're a motion player. I need to learn how to teach you motion that year and master that motion, or a master, you know, playing that matchup zone versus playing man to man or whatever else it may be.
Yeah, no, that I love that, coach. I appreciate that you being that sharing that flexibility. So important on the court, off the court. Just having that open mindset is great. To wrap up, coach, I give every guest what I kind of call a 60-second soapbox. You're welcome to go over 60 seconds, though. I'm not going to time you. It's kind of your platform to kind of get out your final thought, a closing message, a final idea, something that you just want to leave the listeners with. You're welcome to take it in any basketball or coaching direction that you want, coach. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor and I'm going to let you take it from here.
Smile through the imperfections, man. That is my biggest kind of any and everything. You got to smile through those imperfections. We talked about it earlier about your players being able to kind of read your body language, read what you have going on. And yeah, it's okay to be upset that you lost or frustrated that you haven't gotten it just yet, but you got to give yourself that grace. You got to remember that the key word in that is yet. And I always use the term humble beast. You have to learn how to be a humble beast. You have to learn how to lose in public. You have to learn how to win with class. You could show all the emotion that you want once you get back into the locker room, but you got to be able to also pour it out in a productive way. Because at the end of the day, this journey we're on is life. You know, it's a hard journey. You do have your ups and downs like the roller coaster. You do have those moments where, you know, you can't wrap it like a Christmas gift that day or whatever else, but you also have to remember that you always have someone watching you in this process. you always have someone that wants to be next up and be in your shoes and be that next big, player or coach or whatever else it may be. So smile through the imperfections to get you through anything.
That's awesome, Coach. I'm writing that down too. So I'm taking that as well. I might be using that quote. That's
Yes, sir.
awesome, Coach. Coach Fosha, I really want to say thank you for coming on here, talking so much about adversity on so many different levels, program level, individual level, basketball level. A lot of great stuff, Coach, and a lot of real fun things and memorable things and really impactful things that we can take out of this and hopefully use that to build our players, build our programs, and make all of those stronger. So best of luck on this journey that you've just started at Community Christian, Coach. You're going to do great things out there. Keep up what you have been doing and take that program to where it needs to be, Coach. Best of luck to you.
Thank you so much, man. I truly, truly appreciate you for having me. I've had a great time, great conversation, man. And just want to make sure I keep on promoting the Basketball Teacher podcast, man.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate all of you listening. Thank you guys so much for listening. This was another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast. We will see you guys next time.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast. Make sure to connect with us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, or reach us directly through email at basketballteacherpodcast@gmail.com. Take care, be safe, and we'll see you next time.